Here's a failure mode that trips up even experienced chip designers. You have closed setup timing. Every path meets the deadline. The chip looks clean. You tape out and it still fails. Not because signals arrive too late, because they arrive too fast. This is hold timing, and it's the constraint nobody explains well in school because it feels backwards. We have spent two lectures making sure signals aren't slow. Now we are going to talk about why signals becoming too quick is just as dangerous. There's one more twist that makes hold violations especially nasty. Slowing down the clock doesn't fix them. You can run the chip at a fraction of the intended frequency, and a hold violation will still be there, waiting to corrupt your data. By the end of the lecture, you'll understand exactly why and exactly how to fix it. So, before we go deep on hold, let's frame the difference clearly. Setup timing is a maximum delay check. It asks, does the signal get there in time before the capture clock edge? Too slow and it misses the deadline. That's a setup violation. Hold timing is a minimum delay check. It asks, does the signal wait long enough after the capture clock edge? Too fast and it blows through the hold window. That's a hold violation. Look at the timing diagram. Right around the capture clock edge, there are two forbidden zones back to back. The setup window sits just before the edge. Data can't be changing there. The hold window sits just after. Data can't change there either. Both windows must be clean. Setup and hold are two sides of the same constraint, and a chip that passes one but not the other is a broken chip. Just as setup time is the minimum window before the clock edge where data must be stable, hold time is the minimum window after the clock edge where data must also stay stable. Here's the physical reason this matters. When the clock edge arrives, the flip flop's internal circuitry begins latching the value at its input. That process takes a tiny but non zero amount of time to resolve. If the input starts changing during that resolution window, the flip flop may latch the wrong value, or worse, enter metastability. So the data that was captured on the clock edge must remain unchanged for at least t hold picoseconds after that edge. New data from the next launch cycle cannot be allowed to arrive and overwrite it during that window. That's the hold requirement. And it has nothing to do with how long the clock period is. It is a pure race condition between two signals sharing the same wire. For setup timing, we analyze the slowest possible path. We want to make sure even the worst case scenario meets the deadline. For hold timing, we flip that completely. We analyze the fastest possible path because we need to make sure even the best case scenario doesn't arrive too early. The minimum delay through a path occurs when gates are switching the fastest, smaller loads, short wires, light fan out. Under these circumstances or conditions, a signal can race through the combinational logic and reach the capture register surprisingly quickly. Now, if that minimum delay is shorter than the hold requirement, the new data contaminates the capture register before the hold window is closed. This is why STA tools run two separate analyses, a maximum delay analysis for setup and a minimum delay analysis for hold. Both have to pass. The hold constraint is expressed as an inequality, but note its opposite direction from setup. For setup, we needed the path delay to be less than or equal to the available budget. For hold, we need the minimum path delay to be greater than or equal to t hold. Written out, the minimum clock to queue delay plus the minimum combinational path delay must be greater than or equal to t hold. In plain terms, the fastest the new data can possibly arrive must still be after the hold window closes. If new data can race through the path and arrive before T hold has elapsed after the capture edge, that's a violation. This is the key equation for hold timing. Keep it next to the setup equation in your head. They look similar but enforce completely opposite conditions. So let's put some numbers on the same path we've been working with. For hold analysis, we use minimum delay values, the fastest every stage can possibly switch. Minimum clock queue of FF1 is 45 picoseconds, NAND gate minimum is 20, wire minimum is 10 picoseconds, inverter minimum is 15 picoseconds, and NOR gate minimum is 20 picoseconds. Those are the conditions where everything runs fast. Light load, short wires, favorable process. On the next slide, we'll add these up and find out how early the signal can possibly arrive at FF2. Adding up the minimum delay stage by stage, after FF1 45 picoseconds, after NAND 65, after wire 75, after inverter 90, and after NOR 110 picoseconds. The earliest the signal can possibly arrive at FF2's D input is 110 picoseconds after the launch clock edge. That's the minimum arrival time. Now we need to know whether this 110 picoseconds is safely after the hold window or whether it lands inside it. The capture flip-flop has a hold time of 70 picoseconds. So the hold window closes at 70 picoseconds after the clock edge. Our data arrives at 110 picoseconds, well after the window has been closed. 110 is greater than 70. Hold constraint satisfied, the path is safe. On the timing diagram, you can see clearly the hold window is the red hatched region and the data arrives comfortably to the right of it. This path has a 40 picosecond of hold margin. That sounds comfortable, but we're about to see it can disappear fast. Now let's make the path faster. Maybe after routing, the wire becomes shorter. Maybe the gates land in the corner of the chip with very light loading. New minimum delays, clock to queue drops to 40 picoseconds, NAND drops to 15, wire shrinks to 5, inverter to 10, and NOR to 15. So the new arrival time, minimum arrival time, is 85 picoseconds. Hold requirement is 90 picoseconds. So the data now arrives by 5 picoseconds before the hold window closes. It's racing in and changing at the FF2's input while the flip-flop is still in the middle of latching the previous value. That's a hold violation. The logic didn't change, the clock didn't change. The only thing that changes is that the path got a little faster, and that was enough to break the chip. Here's the property that makes hold violation uniquely nasty. They are completely independent of clock frequency. With setup violations, you have an escape hatch. Run the chip slower, give the data more time to propagate, and the setup violation goes away. Hold violations don't work that way. The hold requirement is a fixed window tied to the same clock edge that got fired. It doesn't shrink when you slow the clock down. The question is only whether the new data can race through the path fast enough to arrive before the window closes. And the clock period has nothing to do with that race. It gets worse. Hold violations tend to show up at process corners when the chip runs fastest. Low temperature, high supply voltage, fast transistors. The same conditions that make your chip hit peak for performance are exactly the conditions most likely to surface hold failures. A chip that works in the lab at room temperature can fail in production at a different corner. That's why hold timing must be verified and not assumed. This is the slide that makes timing closure so maddening. You find a setup violation, you fix it. Upsize a gate, shorten a wire, simplify some logic, setup slack goes positive, you check it off, done. Except now you made the path faster. and a faster path has a lower minimum delay. And a lower minimum delay means less margin against the hold requirement. So your setup fix just created a hold violation on the same path. This is not a hypothetical. It happens constantly in real timing flows. You fix the setup list, generate a new hold report, and find a new batch of violations that weren't there before. Timing closure isn't just about making paths fast enough. It's about keeping paths in a specific window, fast enough for setup, slow enough for hold, simultaneously. A fix for a hold violation is the opposite of a setup fix. You need to add delay to the path. The most common technique is delay buffer insertion, dropping a buffer cell right before the capture register's input. The buffer doesn't change the logic value, it just burns time. Another clean option is just an inverter pair, two inverters in series that cancel each other logically but together add 30 to 40 picoseconds of delay. Standard cell libraries often include dedicated delay cells optimized for exactly this purpose. In some cases, routing tools can introduce a slight wire detour to increase interconnect delay on a specific net without touching any cells. The goal is always the same: increase the minimum arrival time just enough to clear the hold window without adding so much delay that you create a new setup violation on the same path. So, back to our violating path. Minimum arrival time was 85 picoseconds. Hold requirement 90 picoseconds. A slack of minus 5 picoseconds. We insert a delay buffer with a 15 picosecond delay. So the new minimum arrival time is 85 plus 15 or 100 picoseconds. The new slack is plus 10 picoseconds. Violation result: a single buffer, that is 15 picoseconds of added delay, and the path goes from failing to passing with a 10 picosecond of margin. This is a simple fix, but as we'll see on the next slide, doing this thousands of times across a full chip is anything but simple. So here's the scale of the problem on a real chip. After placement and routing, a large design can have thousands of hold violations, sometimes tens of thousands. Each one needs a buffer or an inverter pair. Each one has to be checked to make sure the fix doesn't worsen setup timing on that path or any path sharing the same net. Every buffer you insert costs area. On a chip running at high frequency, that area is already tightly packed. Every buffer also burns power. It's switching every time the signal does. And there's a feedback loop. Add too many buffers in one area, the placement gets denser, wires get longer, and new timing issues emerge elsewhere. This is why hold fixing is one of the last and most tedious steps in physical design sign off. Modern EDA tools automate most of it, but the trade offs, power, area, setup impact, still require careful tuning by an experienced engineer. So let's lock in the key ideas. Hold timing checks minimum delay paths. It ensures data doesn't arrive so fast that it corrupts the value being latched at the capture register. The hold constraint is TCQ min plus tpath min should be greater than thold. Minimum path delay must be greater than the hold requirements. The opposite direction from setup. Hold violations occur when paths are too fast. Fast process corners, low temperature, high voltage, short wires, light fan out. Crucially, slowing the clock does nothing to improve them. Setup fixes that speed up a path can create hold violations on that same path. Timing closure has to balance both constraints simultaneously. The is to add delay or buffers, inverter pairs, or wire detours to push the minimum arrival time past the whole window. In the next lecture, we are going to look at process, voltage, and temperature corners, the framework that explains why timing behavior changes across operating conditions and how STA verifies a design across all of them at once. It's the piece that ties everything we have covered together.